We are live, and we are a little early.
We're on time today.
We are on time. You've still been struggling to figure out the clock on your computer.
I feel so helpless. I did nothing new, and tonight you said that it's showing up as the correct time. And it doesn't make any sense because in the past, the time hasn't just been off by like an hour ahead or an hour behind that you would think something is weird with the time zone. I will say go live at 7 or 8, and then it will schedule for 1 in the morning of the next day. I've had times where it's picked a time already happened.
Yeah.
So I can't figure it out, but I tried the other computer in my room. Everything seems to be doing exactly the same thing today. So I'm sure I'll be all frustrated tomorrow, but...
And I'm sure I will have to hear about it. Let's quickly look at the numbers. We are very close. We probably have hit a huge milestone.
I mean, what is a milestone? The numbers
yeah,
are different.
It doesn't matter. But
what's the milestone we're going to hit?
100,000 U.S. deaths. We've probably hit it, and they're probably behind because today's Sunday. But total cases, 5.49, 346,000 deaths around the world. And in the United States here, 1.68 million cases, 99,200 deaths. But I've seen a few news sites reporting that we have hit 100,000, which would make sense because you know how everybody's slow with their Sunday
reporting. You
reporting.
have to remember, though, we talked about this the other day, the CDC is saying the number of cases is a range. So maybe right now we're at a range of 60,000 to 120,000, and then they pick a number in between. So we may have hit 100,000 a long time ago.
Sure.
We may not be close to 100,000.
Well,
it's
in,
all
in
just
my book, I go by Worldometers.
Yeah.
Worldometers is the most legitimate news source available. Looking at the daily cases, I mean, it's slowly going down, but goodness, this tail is just so much slower than any of the models projected. And daily deaths are going down, but still not down as much as you would think. You want to get to your first video here?
Let's get to it.
With states about what proactive surveillance would look like in this case to find people who are asymptomatic, but it's also why we continue to recommend to the public very clearly that you can't tell who's infected. And so that's why you have to continue to social distance. That's why you need to continue to maintain 6 feet apart. I remember in the early days of HIV, people told me all the time that they knew who was infected. And I would say, you don't know who's infected. I could be infected. You're just saying you don't think I'm infected because I look healthy. There's a lot of healthy people out there with COVID that look healthy. And so we're asking continuously for you all to be outside, to enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, to play golf, to hike, as Dr. Fauci said, to play tennis with mark balls, and to be out with your families that you have been in the household with, and to even consider sharing social distance space as long as you have utensils that belong to individuals and that maybe can be thrown out immediately. There's a lot of things to think through. I know you can do this. I know the American people can do it. And so please, as you go out this weekend, understand you can go out, you can be outside, you can play golf, you can play tennis with marked balls. You can go to the beaches if you stay 6 feet apart, but remember that that is your space, and that's the space that you need to protect and ensure that you're social distance for others. Thank you.
So she's like, I know you guys can do it. She sounds like a kindergarten teacher who's like, I know you kids can paint without getting the paint all over.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, people aren't capable of following the rules, so I'm sure she does.
Did she kind of hint at, like, back in her younger days, people were like, oh, I know. What's her name? Bricks? Miss Bricks.
I call her Scarf Lady.
I know who has AIDS, and you look good, so
let's get it on.
Let's get it on. Is that what she's hinting at there?
Maybe she was hinting at that. I didn't pick that up, but
no, I felt a little sexual tension there.
Okay.
All of the people back in the AIDS epidemic would tell me I can look at people and know who's infected.
Okay, that's one way to look into it.
Well, so it feels pretty positive. I mean, it seems
It
like
does feel pretty positive.
we're gonna be able to
It's
go
kind
out
of
and-
weird that she would say those things when many of the things that she was saying we could do, we currently are still not allowed to do in Puerto Rico.
yeah,
It's kind of in a weird spot here. Maybe
tennis isn't open.
I did get an email. Did you see the email that we got?
There's so many emails, and every time I open them, I'm so disappointed in how little they're
This
changing.
one was very specific. This was the email from our
The pack?
club here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had very specific guidelines on what's going to open and what you're allowed to do. And tennis is back open again.
just open, or like we have to make appointment. I mean, we kind of always have to make appointments because that's how it works here. But
Yeah, I don't know. It may just be open. It said members only, clubhouse closed. Golf course maybe opens either Monday or Tuesday. One person per cart. Members only, can't bring a friend. Reservations only, can't show up. Pool. Sounded like pool was open, but maybe only
The lap
with
pool?
reservations for the lap pool, and you're not allowed to like
going on the water slide
congregate or
and
anything.
stuff?
Yeah, maybe the water slides or I don't know.
So you'll still be doing your snorkel runs in our pool.
Probably.
Do you want that extra length?
I've thought about that. I could
Yeah.
skateboard to the big pool with my snorkel.
What does the marked balls things mean? Because does people realize balls are already marked, right? They usually have like pin 3 and
Yeah, but you know, a lot of people. I know every ball that I have has a different number on it. It's not like when I play with only number ones.
I don't understand this, because if I'm playing tennis with you, we're probably fine because we live in the same house. But if I play tennis with somebody else, am I worried about? We're basically saying the two of us are going to share balls, right?
Yeah.
But if our balls go into another court right next to us, that's still only 2 more people. It's not like the magnitude of numbers are great here. It's not like we're playing, what's a good example? A sport where you have a ton of people, you know, like football, and we're throwing the football among 20 people, and we're all jumping up and trying to play grab ball. We're just playing tennis with 2 people, and somebody got 1 ball on an object that they're saying we don't have to worry about.
Well, that's a little funny.
It
Yeah.
just seems strange. I would have thought tennis was one of the main sports that could have restarted, especially professionally. They could just open a new set of
Well-
balls pretty often for the players.
Yeah, but I think the idea with the lockdown is not that tennis is unsafe. It's that if you're allowed to play tennis and golf and go to the pool and go to the beach, then you're just going to find reasons to congregate. You know, you're going to shake hands with your partner. You're going to see another friend. Oh, hey, how's it going? You're going to get a little bit too close, and you're going to breathe in that sweet, sweet COVID.
Well, I'm excited that everything's opening up, because nothing, like, we are big kids. We're grown adults. We'll be able to figure this out. It's a 3-day weekend.
I mean, you say that, but you also say that it's not safe to go outside. So where do you draw the line?
I don't know. We have a few more clips. Maybe we can decide after the clips on. My mind has
Sure,
changed.
people are just waiting for us to go at it again. Katie last night was the one we argued for like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
She was like, that was a really good show.
Gosh. They all took your side. I'm tempted to win this one. So there's no audio on this one, but this is just a time lapse.
So far, it looks very social distanced.
Yeah, pretty reasonable. I'm trying to remember where this is. This is Ocean City, New Jersey.
Okay.
Now, I've seen a lot of clips and time lapses, and you know, it's starting to get more and more packed. But the difficulty with the time lapse is it's very hard to tell where any person is at any one moment, you know? It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like there's crowds congregating. Like, there's some people up there in the top left. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe that's why that truck drove by to tell them, hey, get out of here. But I feel like overall, that looks pretty good. Like, everyone's, like, I mean, here's a paused shot of it. Everyone seems to be pretty much 6 feet away. Maybe
Yeah.
some of the couples that are close together have been quarantining together. So,
And I mean, you know, when you're in New Jersey or New York and you're walking around outside on the beach,
I don't want to touch any of those people anyway.
Exactly.
I don't
Like
wanna
I
be
just
near-
can't imagine you're getting it from that. I'm still sticking to it. It's the freaking subways and the trains and that
Yeah.
part of the world that's giving it to everybody.
Got a couple super chats. Logan Kressler says, 2 guys, 1 ball. You know, I watched that video the other night. The 2 girls, 1 cup.
Mm-hmm.
That was horrible. That was disgusting.
Oh, really?
Dare I say?
Really, you got conned into watching that?
I
one?
had no idea. Like, it started off with this cheesy keyboard.
Yeah, it's like really sweet music.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, some girls, you know, and then don't watch that video.
One thing led to another.
420 Tindy says, I can't be live, but Patrick and Lee, go read my comments on China on yesterday's video. They're exporting their culture and laws on U.S. citizens. Scary. To some degree, it's scary, but we also are exporting our culture and laws to some degree on the world at a much larger rate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Western culture, like music and entertainment, we own the world in that, you know. And if you don't agree with our culture, you don't like our movies, I don't always like our new music coming out, I could see where you'd be offended by that.
Yeah, but the difference is that we're not forcing companies in other countries to change their art
Yeah.
to be imported into the United States like China is. That's pretty wild. And then I've been hearing the crazy stuff about Hong Kong.
Yeah, I started going down a rabbit hole last night watching news stories in Hong Kong, and
Yeah.
my understanding, I don't understand it real well, but maybe Hong Kong is in this period where they're moving to be one law under China, but at the moment it's 1 location, 2 laws kind of. And maybe that transformation's completely supposed to happen in 2049, but there's wiggle room where it could happen earlier, and it seems like China has just said it's happening now, way before 2049. So what it feels like, maybe I have the time frames wrong, but a lot of these commentary guys that are in Hong Kong are just saying all the multimillionaire and billionaires have left Hong Kong. Hong Kong is like one of the top 3 richest cities in the world. I didn't realize that. There's more millionaire and multimillionaire and billionaires that live in Hong Kong than anywhere else. And so they're
It
all.
didn't seem that nice to me. I'm trying to remember back to when we were there, and you know we were
It's
in kind
very divided. We would go to neighborhoods that were just super much like super.
But I thought we were in the
impoverished.
cool part of Hong Kong.
I mean, that mall we went into was pretty nice, and a lot of those buildings that we didn't go into, those skyscrapers, were beautiful.
Yeah.
The other side of it, I forget what that part's called, seemed really nice. Like that area felt like downtown Manhattan, kind of cleaner, and just with all the performers and the boardwalk and everything. Victoria Park was pretty. Like it was a cool city.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were just saying all these people are leaving, and the human rights stuff's getting really bad, and the killings of protesters is getting bad. And it's now this perfect cloud of secrecy where China can go in there and do this, and everyone's kind of scared because of coronavirus. So
Yeah.
it's scary to see that democracy falling apart. And so many of our friends that travel are just like, so glad I got to see Hong Kong as much as I did, because it will not be the same once it's, you know, completely under China's rule. But there's a lot to learn there.
You know what I've been thinking about recently is Photog Mike.
Yeah.
Photog Mike was in the chat every night. He said he came down with the virus. He disappeared for a week. He came back one night and said he was currently in the hospital. And I said, if anybody knows him, like get in contact with him. We'd like to at least hear from him or put him on the show or something. And Touche Films put me in an email thread with him. And he never responded. It just seems really weird. At the very least, he would say, I'm not interested, or everything's fine, don't worry about it. But to not even respond
Yeah.
seems really weird.
Not necessarily weird. It just seems like maybe things turn for the worst.
I mean, I don't want to jump to that conclusion, but I've been thinking about him a lot. And every time we go live here, I'm like, man, where is that guy? He was here for a long time. Touche Films just says he hasn't responded to any of my messages. Yeah. Very, very strange. So if anybody knows him personally, and maybe we could try to reach out to him through text maybe instead of email, I don't know. I don't need to talk to him, but I just want to make sure that he's okay. So if anybody else knows him, I'd love to hear from him.
Well, This next video, we're gonna move to the beach again. Oh, well, we were on the boardwalk. Seems like things have gotten better. This is in Florida. This is Daytona Beach, so I think people are being pretty good with the social distancing. What? So that didn't look like what I would have thought, but maybe it's just because it's nighttime and it's in a weird part.
Yeah, it's probably an optical illusion. I think there's probably the 6 feet circular around each person.
Sometimes there's telephoto lenses. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of beach shots with telephoto lenses, and it makes everyone look on top of each other.
Perspective compression. That's
Yeah.
right. I did a video about that. So, I'm
But
sure
we have
it's
more.
fun.
Here's a water park. This is Ozarks. Have you seen this?
Okay. Yeah. Probably.
At least the pier back there by the boats looks like.
Yeah.
That doesn't look good. Missouri?
Okay. You got any more clips like these?
This one I think's better.
Right now, I'm absolutely frightened, like frightened. As you can see, nobody is social distancing. Nobody is wearing a mask except maybe me. And this biddy is not leaving my face. There is nobody social distancing.
Okay, here's a beach shot. Like, if you really look at this,
Yeah. Everybody's very separated.
it doesn't seem that well. What's going on up here in the top left? It's like everyone's.
It's just a family gathering.
Really, it's like crazy.
Back in Daytona.
I'm not sure if they are.
That doesn't look bad.
Looks like it. There is no even one person. One person is wearing a mask.
But they're not wearing the mask.
Coming in and coming
You
out.
gonna wear the mask at the beach or in a swimming pool? Come on.
I mean, should we be going to water parks to begin with?
Nobody's moving.
I mean, shouldn't the water parks just be closed? Is that the first place you want to go? I mean, I understand the beach. You can social distance there, but I mean, everyone just like standing in line. I mean, you want to go to Disney World, and
I
maybe
do.
Disney and Universal are going to have ways to separate people out. But when you go to these water parks, I mean, you're just climbing this tower. It's very hard to be socially distant there. In many cases, you have water dripping on you from above, and everyone's got the lockers and the keys and
Yeah,
the towels.
but you know they
and-
got so many chemicals in that to kill the urine that it's got to kill the virus. JB Bowden, what's up? He's back in the building. Yo, as long as you're gonna do a super chat, you might as well put a comment in there. Give us something to talk about, Brian. All right, you got a clip here from Myrtle Beach.
No, this is our neck of the woods.
Yep.
Dirty Myrtle.
This is where I met my wife.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Huh. I don't know if that says a lot or doesn't say enough.
It says a lot.
Again, it's hard to tell, but like down here in the corner, there's some guys like throwing the football.
And now you're not allowed to throw a football.
I mean, I don't know. They were just telling us we had to mark our balls.
Well, you mark the ball so that the person you're playing with is
What?
the one who touches the balls. You don't want other people touching the
I
balls.
know, but when you go to the beach, you think it's just families and I'm going to be throwing the ball to just you? Or are you going to be like, hey, we're all going to the beach, and then suddenly multiple households come up and all the husbands, all the fathers, all the kids, they're all catching the ball? I mean,
I don't
thought-
know, but you're jumping to conclusions. You're saying those people are troublemakers and dangerous when it's just two people throwing the football.
I just know with tennis, it's two people, maybe four people if you have doubles. Throwing a football, I don't know. Like, I don't know how dangerous this is, but some of
It's
those
not.
videos just seemed a little crazy. Luckily, this next video, we have a solution for all this nonsense.
Real quick, Jay Bloom says, since I started watching F-Stoppers live, YouTube has now started recommending all kinds of conspiracy videos. It's so funny. Hopefully that's just because it shows that you're interested in coronavirus news and not conspiracy theories, because we try not to share conspiracy theories, although maybe we have a few today to talk about. You want to get to this one?
Yeah, this is the answer, I think, to it all. So there are bars all over the country. At least 2. Maryland, and then also I
All
think
over
in
the
New Jersey.
country, too.
Here's another one in Ocean City we were just watching, and you too can waddle around with a tube around you, and this will guarantee that you won't get within somebody's personal space.
This just shows the ingenuity of human beings, and especially Americans.
I bet you these companies are going to make a lot of money. Because everyone's going to want the picture and the Instagram thing, and it's such a stupid idea, but people will sign up to do that. And the novelty will wear off, and you'll be like, I'm tired of being in this thing.
Well, I wonder how they made it, you know? Is this just some like truck tire inner tube that cost 20 bucks and then they bought some $30 metal table and cut a hole in it or something? I wouldn't imagine they can afford to make some custom made thing from the ground up for this stupid concept, but people will like it for a short period of time, like you said.
So the $1 million question is Dr. Bricks going to be disappointed in a month, or are we going to be okay?
Is that Scarf Lady?
Scarf Lady.
Well, I've got a Scarf Lady video, and maybe we should show that next. Logan says, we're all here for the ball talk. Give the people what they want. I mean, I think you're being a little too goody two-shoes with the football policing. I think if people are allowed to go to the beach and like hang out, they should be able to throw a football back and forth.
I thought you were going to say I was being too goody two-shoes with the 2 girls, 1 cup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just a nice, loving relationship.
You remember when that first came out and they had all the Kermit the Frog reaction? Like, reaction videos for that was the best. I remember one time I was living in an apartment, and I get out of the elevator and I start walking to my room, and I hear that music. And it's at the beginning. Ding, 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 ding. You know, I hear it going, and I had groceries or something, and I was like, no way. I'm about to hear either
A live reaction.
there's some freak living next to me who just watches that on the regular, or he's showing it to somebody for the first time. So, like, I stand there, and I put my ear to the door, and, like, you know, within 30 seconds, the reveal happens, and it must have been his girlfriend. And she's just like, what the? Just starts going crazy, and I was like, that's the closest I've ever had to seeing, like, an anonymous live reaction to that video. It was
Yeah,
pretty
it's
great.
interesting. I've never actually seen it myself, but I showed it to many people, and I watched their reaction. And I showed it to my roommate when it first came out, who was a nurse, a male nurse, a nurse. And he was brushing his teeth,
Just
and he's
casually.
watching it, and he was just like, yeah, that's disgusting. And I'm like, that's it? Everybody who's seen this, like, starts vomiting. And he's like, I see disgusting stuff every day, man. This isn't that much to me. So.
You ever heard the stories about, like, dating female nurses? I assume male nurses are like that too, but just like the freakiest women you'll ever meet are always female nurses.
Oh, really?
Because they've seen everything, and they're in such high-stress environments, and they're also so sensitized to, like, life and death and all of that.
Desensitized.
That they are they're a little freakier.
I've
They
not heard
need
that.
crazier things to happen to.
I've heard that about hairdressers,
Really?
but not.
I would think. I guess hairdressers hear a lot, but have they
You
seen a
remember
lot?
that video? We're going on a crazy tangent right now. You remember that video the guy made? It was like the
I don't know.
hot to crazy. What did he call it?
Oh yeah, the hot to crazy ratio, like the chart where he
Yeah.
explains, and he's like, "Here's where your hairdressers live, and then here's where your models are," and he just draws everything there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the unicorn is like the hot and not crazy, you know, but like this doesn't exist. You'll never find a
Yeah.
woman in this area.
Yeah.
So you got to like lower the hotness level or add to the crazy level.
People are upset that I can't make up my mind whether or not I want to go outside or not go outside.
Yeah, it's
Now
because you're a
they're-
hypocrite.
Now they're trying to figure out, like, did he see 2 girls, 1 cup, or did he not see 2 girls, 1 cup? Patrick, make up your freaking mind.
That's true. Here, let me show you this clip from Scarf Lady. Maybe I should set this up a little bit. You know how we've been talking about how just a couple weeks ago, everybody said that there's going to be 60,000 U.S. dead
Yeah.
by August, and I'm like, why doesn't anyone talk about this? It's just weird that we've blown past that. Before even June, we've hit 100,000. Nobody's talking about it. Well, Chris Wallace brings it up here.
A month ago, you and President Trump were both talking about a total of
Let me give you a warning. Her answer is not
Satisfactory?
no.
60,000 COVID-19 deaths. Take a look.
It looks like we'll be at about a 60,000 mark, which is 40,000 less than the lowest number thought of.
Look at how much the model has changed in just a week. Remember, just a week ago, it was 80,000. Now it's 60,000.
Early this coming week, we're going to reach 100,000 deaths from the coronavirus, and those models that you're citing now talk about close to 150,000 deaths by August. What happened, doctor?
I think a few things are together. So from the beginning, and I think when we had that first briefing, we talked about 1.2 million to 2.4 million and 100,000 to 240,000 people succumbing to this incredibly aggressive virus. Those are the figures that we continue to stand by in this first wave, and really understanding how to prevent future hospitalizations and future deaths is really what we're focused on every single day.
Was that even an attempt to answer the question? That was the worst answer. And listen, I'm not a Scarf Lady hater. I think she does a fine job for the most part. But that was the worst answer. She didn't even pretend to answer the question. Now he's going to ask it again because that was crap. But it doesn't really get that much better. And I just feel like, you know, nobody really has a problem with her. You know, if she was just honest and she just said,
Models change.
yeah, like I guess we were wrong. Like we were wrong on the one end when we said it could be 2 million, and then we were wrong again when it was 60,000. Like obviously it's falling somewhere in between.
You could put all the blame on the models.
Sure.
All of these models have multiple variables that we're all trying to guess, and if one variable changes by a small amount, it throws off the whole model.
But it would be nice if someone in her position knew what that variable was. Because he asked specifically, is like, what was it? Is the virus more deadly? Is the virus more contagious? Did we not do enough locking down? Did we not wear the PPE, whatever, PPE? So he's giving her all of these outs, like just say, the models probably expected more mask wearing, but many Americans choose not to. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, we're not blaming you for this. We just want to know how we were so wrong a couple weeks ago.
Do you always sound this reasonable?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
You're
smart.
laying it out really well.
Yeah, I'm smart.
I feel like if she was here right now, she would confess to us and
She'd
say,
flip that scarf and she'd
be like,
be
you know what,
reasonable.
Lee? Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
But she's luckily going to tell Chris Wallace that right here.
Here we go. This is going to be the best answer ever.
But to press it a little bit, a month ago you were saying we were going to come down below the low end of the model, which is 100 to 240,000 to 60,000. So I guess my question is, in this last month, did you underestimate the strength of the virus? Did we reopen too soon? Did we reopen without sufficient restrictions?
What I was saying in that briefing that you were talking about is what that current model was showing. There are different models we have been using all along, and really trying to learn primarily not just from models, but understanding what has happened in Spain and Italy and the UK, and really tracking those numbers. We understand that our mortality rates are less than those three countries, and that's really due to the incredible work of our frontline hospital workers. But we understand that these number of infections has led to this level of mortality, and our job now going forward is to do everything we can to prevent additional hospitalizations and additional mortality.
Did she even attempt to answer the question for a second time?
In my mind, she did answer the question, and she answered it by saying the models don't matter at all. We are just trying to make a narrative to the people so that when we get done with all of this, the least amount of people will die.
It seems like you're reading into that a little bit. I didn't hear any of that.
Well, she just made it sound like there's multiple models. We're choosing one to talk about, and then we will choose another one later that will have maybe a different thing. We're looking at all these countries, and at the end of the day, all we need to do is just make sure the American people are staying smart and up to date so that they can take care of themselves. But she's not explaining why the models themselves are changing. And it doesn't, she doesn't have to go into in depth.
No, it doesn't have to be detailed. It could just be we thought that it had a 14-day incubation period, and now we're learning that it could be up to 30 days. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Some of those models accounted for maybe the virus will slow down when it warms up, and we don't know that that's happening.
That would be great.
That
That'd be
just
an
that
answer.
makes up like one hundredth of it, but the other 1/100th could be that we're finding out that people are contagious afterward. I don't know what it would be, but these models are incredibly complicated. But to just say that we're going to change and use a different model doesn't really explain it to me. It doesn't explain it to most people.
Pablo says, just to check in, me and my girlfriend follow you since 2018 and haven't missed a video no matter what the subject. Wow. Nobody does that, so thank you. I'm usually awake at this time, but do 3D work. Much love from Serbia. Here is some dinars. That must be their currency there, RSD. Not sure what that is, 500 RSD, but thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Next up, where are we at? Trump says artificial event. Oh boy, here's the next conspiracy of the day. This is so clear to me.
Yeah.
What he is saying.
Well, good. You'll be able to explain it to all those people that are probably.
All right, everybody get ready. Trump's about to admit, live on the air by accident, that all of this was made up by the elite to inject vaccines with microchips in us.
To President Obama's speeches over the weekend.
Look, I think he was an incompetent president. I think President Obama was one of the worst presidents in the history of our country. I think he was an incompetent president. I know what he left us. He left us a broken military. He left us a military that ISIS was all over the place, and I got rid of it. I knocked out 100% of the caliphate, and even you will admit that, John. And when I came in, it was a mess. But we had a broken military. We had a depleted military. We had little on the shelves, if you talk about pandemics. We had a country that was a mess. We were paying high taxes. We were paying, and outside of this artificial event that took place 2 months ago.
All right, keep playing it. I don't know that I caught it.
I'll reset
Well,
it.
I
I know the audio is really low. Sorry guys, it's all the way maxed out here. Listen again.
Yes, we were paying high taxes. We were paying, and outside of this artificial event that took place 2 months ago, and I'm going to build the country into stronger and better than it was even then, and it's already happened.
An artificial event.
That to me,
Dun dun dun.
I think that's proof right there from our president. This was manufactured in a Chinese lab. It's not. It's
I
not
thought
human.
it was proof that Bill Gates made it to
Well, yeah, that too.
to lower the population and kill the children.
Yeah, I mean, you're going a little further than I am, but yeah, basically.
Well, how can it be both? How can it be the Chinese lab and Bill Gates?
Well, the Chinese lab created this virus, and then now Bill Gates is like hitching a ride on it, kind of like that comet that those people were going to catch a ride on.
But did he plan this? Did he fund this? Was this all his scheme, or is he just taking advantage of the situation that China planned?
Bill Gates was in that lab in China.
Proof.
It's the only explanation.
Exhibit A. Yeah.
We're kind of being silly here. What do you think he meant by that? Do you think he misspoke? Do you think he doesn't use his words clearly? Is he just talking about the market and economics, and this is a outside event or a black swan event? Like, what does artificial
To me, it just
event mean?
he just is saying the economy was strong, and this outside event took the economy down. But it's not an inherent problem with the economy. It's this outside force or this artificial force. But we've got people that we know sharing this and going, my God, look at what Trump just admitted live on the air. This is proof of ... fill in the blank with whatever insane conspiracy you believe.
So you're saying that people are just reading into the phrase that he used?
Yeah, artificial event.
It reminds me a lot of the video we had a month ago where the people were in the press room and they're talking candidly and they're like, well, we've all been vaccinated, right? And everyone's like, what?
Yeah,
Everyone's
exactly.
got vaccines? And is it just, I don't even know the answer to that video. Were they just joking among themselves?
I think so. I think they were joking, and it was like cameramen that work
So they
It's
knew.
like they weren't even in the political higher ups. Like they didn't have a position of power. That's what everybody wanted to believe. Like, oh, it's like we just got an inside listen.
It's like when we're filming and you kind of look at the camera and you're like, whoever's editing, like, David, you're going to love editing this one. And you just say something knowing that somebody will watch it back eventually.
Well, I don't know that they even thought people were listening in. I think they were just joking with each other. But I don't know. It's just so frustrating to watch people take these things that are meaningless and then just run forever with them until the next one. And whenever the next thing comes out and Fauci accidentally says something, then it'll be the new thing. And Fauci just proved that it's this, even though, that other thing Trump said, it kind of goes against what he's, forget about that. That's old. That happened last week. Fauci, now we caught him in the lie, and this is proof. And it wears me down, man.
Well, this next video, we go back to Fauci with what he was talking about in March.
Let's do it.
There's a lot of confusion among people and misinformation surrounding face masks. Can you discuss that?
The masks are important for someone who's infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. Now, when you see people and look at the films in China and South Korea, whatever, everybody's wearing a mask. Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now.
It's too bad that guy gave him an out right there. He's
Yeah.
like, you sure about this?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people watching tonight, and they're going to use this against you. I've heard F-Stoppers has completely changed their business. They're not even doing photography shows anymore, and probably in 2 months, they're going to be showing this clip. So are you sure?
Well, Fauci is like, they're only going to do that show for a few weeks, and they're not going to talk about me at all.
Okay, because that's not what I heard. But go ahead, Fauci.
Now people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them and people who are ill. The people who, when you look at the films of foreign countries and you see 85% of the people wearing masks, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not against it. If you want to do it, that's fine.
But it can lead to a shortage of masks.
Exactly.
Which
That's
we're
the
starting
point.
to
It could
see.
lead to a shortage of masks for the people who really need it.
I feel like he redeems himself a little at the end.
Yeah,
but
I don't know that I'm not offended by anything he said. I mean, all he had to say was, at this point in time, we can save more lives and do more against this virus if our healthcare providers have all the masks currently available. But if in the near future there's a surplus, then it certainly can't hurt to wear masks.
But could he politically say that? Could he say it does make a difference, but we need to let the healthcare workers use them for now because we
Oh, I
might
see.
run out? Because if he said that, I feel like that's the more honest answer. At least that's what it seems like is the right answer today.
Yeah.
But it now makes people think, well, did he change his mind? Did we lie to the public? Is something different now than it was back then? Like, in my mind, if we had unlimited masks, we should have said, and we didn't, but we should have said, like, yes, everyone should be wearing masks. I keep saying that it feels like flattening the curve and now letting everyone go back out is just letting us go back in time to where we were maybe in March. And when we didn't have all of this stuff in place, we are now saying, wear the masks, do the social distancing, do all of these things. We are now not worried about our hospitals getting overflooded. I mean, they could, but we went through a first wave and they didn't. So that's good. But now we are back. We've bought ourselves some time. We're now back to where we were in January, February, March, some period of time. We're still obviously very high. Maybe we never really gained this sense of going back in time at all, but that's what it feels like, right? And now we're saying, now when you go to the grocery store, you should wear the mask. And many businesses are going to say, you have to have a mask. But to not say that back then when it was true then, it just feels like it gives people ammunition to
Yeah.
say Fauci is lying or he's changing his mind, because either masks are helpful or they're not.
True, but I will also say that I'm noticing that people find, and this is just human nature, I'm sure I do it too, people find ammunition for their point when it comes to this virus and the lockdown and the masks and everything. No matter where they look, they can find what they're looking for. And a great example of this is the death models. The death model, you know, at one time was like 1 or 2 million in America would die.
I mean, it was 2 or 4 million. The very
Okay.
beginning of this, we were talking about more people dying of World War from this than World War II, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe not World War, like in war, not the Holocaust and all that, but it was definitely the Civil War.
But my point is that we looked at those numbers, everybody got scared, and then they immediately started changing them drastically, right?
Yeah.
And then the people who were never for the lockdown and don't like being locked down use that as ammunition to go, they lied to us. They lied to us to make us stay inside when in reality this is similar to the flu or maybe a few times worse than the flu. And this is proof that they can't be trusted, and this is proof that we need to go back outside. But I have an idea of who those people are, and you know, maybe I even believe aspects of that. But I can see those people on social media, and now that the last models of 60,000 have been destroyed, and we're already up to 100,000 on our way to 200,000, they don't talk about that anymore, right? They've like, oh, now I can't use that as an argument for my point anymore, so now I'm going to go back to Fauci and the 60 Minutes clip and lying about the masks or whatever as proof that he can't be trusted and we need to be let outside. So my only point is that, yes, it would have been better if he was more honest, potentially. But like you said, if he had said it can protect you, but we must protect our healthcare workers first, I could see a lot of people being like, screw that, every man for themselves, like I'm getting all the masks I can get, you know, and that would have been bad.
So maybe he had to say that just to save
maybe
the healthcare workers.
Maybe, yeah, it's a tough situation he's in.
But my fear in all of this, and I've said this many times in this show, is that we are going to hear these conspiracy theories for years because all of these models are changing. There was many people, including me, I'm honest about it. Early on, I said, this might just be a few times worse than the flu.
Yeah.
And then it was like Dr. Drew said that and a couple other TV doctors, and then they apologized for it, and everyone was like, this is not like the flu. But when the models were 100,000 or 1 million, and then they went down, many people said, look, this isn't that bad. They're changing the models. But then those same people, many times, then see the models go back up, and they get on that train. And it's like they're taking both sides. They're like, this isn't that bad. This is the government and the politicians trying to scare us. It's not that bad. And then suddenly it becomes bad, and they say, people like Dr. Drew or Kooks, and like we shouldn't be listening to him. This is really bad. And then we go through another phase where, oh, it doesn't look like it is that bad. You know what I mean? Like
I don't see loud people on social media doing that. The people that I see posting daily have taken a side.
And they're sticking to it?
They're sticking to it. And I think we have been honest. And I go through up and down waves of feeling that this is super dangerous or not dangerous at all 5 times a day, depending on what little news clip I see, or I see some horrific, sad clip from a hospital, and I'm like, damn it, like why would I risk my life and my family's well-being just to do jiu-jitsu or whatever it is that I want to do? And then I watch a clip of people going to these pool parties and going to water parks, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm way more locked down than anyone else in the United States. This is ridiculous. Like I'm totally overreacting. So I think for the most part, it seems like people seem to be picking a side. Those are the ones who are the loudest.
Yeah.
But I would agree. The majority of people, I'm sure, are like us. They're more reasonable. They think before speaking, and with new evidence, they're on the fence, you know, not totally sure. I mean, even the politicians, nobody knows for sure. Everybody's afraid.
Well, the transition I feel happening right now, and maybe this is not a transition at all. It's just voices that we're hearing more from. But a lot of people, especially in our community, they're linking to articles that are on CNN where they're saying the death rate of this virus is only a few times greater than the flu for people that are 50 years older and younger. And I need
Say that one more time.
If you're 50 years or younger, the death rate, the mortality rate of COVID-19 is lower, or not lower, but is about the same or just a few times deadlier than the worst flu season. And they're pointing back to 2018's flu season.
I thought that we were talking earlier, and I thought it was 6 times worse.
6 times worse. But
Okay,
it's not.
That's pretty significant.
It's not like, well, no, I did a calculation where I used numbers off the CDC, and I found it to be 6 times worse. But many of the doctors and people in here are saying, no, that's not right. Like, my calculation's wrong. It is closer to being 0.0079% for people 50 and younger. That this is no deadlier for everybody than the normal flu. This article's on CNN. I'll have to find it. This came out like yesterday or 2 days ago. And I'm saying, but if I go to the CDC's website and calculate, I think there was 3,000 people the year that 80 or 90,000 people died in the United States. The 2017 to 18 flu season. If you look at their data, the number of people that died under the age of 50 was something like 3,000. It wasn't that many. Most of the people were above the age of 50.
Okay.
This is the same thing with this case. You know, COVID-19.
How many people have died under 50?
For coronavirus,
Yeah.
I don't know that number. I'm just taking the number that the CNN article is talking about. CNN was basically saying more and more scientists are thinking that this is a lot less deadly than we had originally thought. And so the story is coming back, the narrative is coming back that this is just like the flu season in 2018 for people under the age of 50. If you're above, I think, the age of 80, COVID-19 is incredibly dangerous. That's what most people are dying from. But the flu, it killed only, I'll have to find, I wish I had the art. I'll put the links in
We
this
all
description.
wish you came prepared.
I didn't know I was going to talk about this tonight, but I will put the links in the description. It's a CNN article, and then it is going to the CDC's website and looking up the data on this. They have all this data published.
All right, we got a couple super chats. Carl Hancock says, telling people not to wear the mask was purely to protect the supply and prevent shortages, which makes sense, but it's also messed up. Yeah, that is kind of messed up. Pablo says, by the way, we hated Patrick in the beginning. Now we are with him on hashtag Team Patrick. You are our news source. I use your photo critiques for improving my renders. Wow, Patrick.
I'm shocked that those would improve anything, but...
Here's an interesting, well, let's watch this final clip here from you.
So we have determined a cryo-electron microscopy structure of the spike glycoprotein in complex with the antibody. The spike glycoprotein is the building block in the virus that mediates entry into target cells, and it is also the main target of neutralizing antibodies upon infection. So the antibody recognizes the apex of the spike glycoprotein. The spike glycoprotein is shown here with 3 colors, light blue, gold, and pink.
It's an interesting camera angle. They were like, get the camera outside the door. And they're like, oh, like a telephoto shot on the screen. No. Wide angle. Show the door frame.
Well, did you hear at the beginning of this video, you could hear like doors creaking and stuff?
I wonder what that was. It sounded like the spitter dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
I do not know that reference.
And we can see here 3 antibodies in 2 shades of purple attaching to the apex of the spike glycoprotein. So this atomic level description of the interactions between the spike glycoprotein and the antibody allowed us to understand why this antibody can neutralize multiple strains of SARS-CoV as well as SARS-CoV-2. And because the epitope recognized, the region recognized, is highly conserved across these viruses. And this is also why it gives us some hope that this antibody might be efficient at neutralizing related viruses that could emerge in the future.
So there were no good videos on this story, and so I'm going to have to fill you in on a lot of this.
Yeah, I don't know what that, like I couldn't understand that guy anyway.
This doctor is from the University of Washington, and he is finding that people who had COVID 19 years ago, 15 years ago, have antibodies in their blood, and that those antibodies are showing resistance to COVID-19.
Oh, shit.
And so this is a news story that's just breaking now, like in the last 24 hours.
So could you infect yourself with a less deadly, older SARS virus, or are all SARS viruses super deadly?
I didn't go down that path. That's an interesting idea. I think the worry about taking the serum antibodies is that it might protect you when you're infected, but it may not allow your body to then have the natural response of making its own antibodies. I don't know if that's true with the current COVID-19 blood studies, but it's just an interesting finding that we've suspected that these two viruses are very closely related, but this is the first medical study I've seen, and I don't know what stages it's in. I don't know if it's peer-reviewed, but I just see this article being published quite a bit in the last 48 hours, but I have not found a good news story on the internet yet. But that's the actual, he's an assistant professor, I believe, but that's the university that this study is coming out of. So I think that's pretty interesting findings. We've seen so many vaccine stories and antibody stories from companies trying to make stuff out of thin air, it feels like.
Yeah.
But to actually see that, whoa, this thing is more related to the previous outbreak of the other SARS virus.
Yeah, that seems like great news.
Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. I don't know if that's...
Brian Bowden says, please address the bots that are responsible for 40% of disinformation about COVID-19. Did you read about this?
No, but I have been finding... I'll let you run with this because you have the answer, but...
I don't have that many answers,
well,
but I did read about it.
But in finding these videos, like looking for that story, I'm going on YouTube and typing in very specific keywords and then sorting by like 24 hours. And so many YouTube videos are these like, I am a news bot in South Korea today. And they just read the news with text. And
Yeah.
I've seen, I think on Smarter Every Day, he talks about how dangerous this whole disinformation world will be. He released this video like 6 months ago, before all of this. And it's just these bots can create these videos, export them, and then link them to other videos, and these channels can get hundreds of thousands of followers just by making these automated videos, and people start to believe them and trust them. And they might be truthful videos, but they're not made in the organic way that other content.
Anytime I click on a YouTube video and it starts with one of those voices, I'm like, I got scammed, downvote, click out of this. So
But you've seen on Reddit, right, where like somebody will summarize, a bot will summarize it, and everyone's like, that's the most incredible summary, and it makes you think that is what the beginning of artificial intelligence will look like. It's something as simple as a computer being able to digest a bunch of complicated information and then regurgitate it out in a explain like I'm 5 scenario, and then everyone say that is, it like revalidates what it did.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary to me to think that we have computers that can do that. But then you are, and me too, we're not trusting them enough to copy them and put them in this video. I wasn't going to reference that.
No, and one of these articles said something like 40 or 50% of tweets that are about opening up the United States are from fake Twitter accounts.
Yep.
I don't understand. I don't understand how creating a fake Twitter account can convince people to do things. I mean, you have to get followers to people.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like they had a news story on CNN a couple months ago about these farms happening in the middle of Africa, and they would confront this guy. And it's like they can pay people, especially countries like Russia and China, they can pay these huge groups of hundreds of Africans in this little town that have internet connection. Maybe they're even building the infrastructure for that. And then they will pay people just the most minimum wage, but it's still great for them. And they will all create these bots and these accounts, and they all follow each other, and then they get followers. Like I've seen this with people that are trending every day, these accounts that trend every day. I've seen many of them a year ago, and I was like, I remember when that was like a 2,000 person follower, and now they have 1 million followers, and I see them all the time. And some of them are real people, but other ones I'm like, wait a minute, this seems a little suspicious, you know? But there's a way to game that system. And if Twitter's not fast enough at figuring out the web and how they're all linked, then you start seeing trends happen, and you're like, this trend seems like.
I mean, I guess I could see. I mean, I kind of just talked about it a second ago. I'm seeing on my social media, the only social media I do is Facebook. And so I see on my news feed people posting crazy shit all day long, and it wears on me. And it does make me think that the majority of Americans are stupid, or the majority of people I know are stupid, or the majority of people can't be trusted. So maybe if I was on Twitter and I just kept seeing dumb stuff posted all the time, maybe that could influence me in some way. Or maybe if I was one of these people who, believed that this was fake and, this isn't even a real virus and it's 5G, and all I see is other people saying, yeah, it's not even real, we should be let outside, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that could invigorate me to...
Well, this is the whole argument for Russia's involvement in our election, was that they created accounts, and they weren't just bots, but they were actual intelligence people that would bait Americans with these stories that they would run with, and then you keep feeding the people this narrative to where they're not only going to continue down that road, but they're going to try to persuade as many other people to come along with them. My argument has always been like, any Trump supporter that I've seen in the South that were in my, my friends and stuff would post the same stuff that they would post anyway. Like, they didn't need Russian bots to do that,
Right.
And I never felt like I haven't met any person who I felt like they were on the brink of voting this way, and then they saw a few things and they went completely opposite.
Yeah, I haven't.
Maybe that existed in the Hillary-Bernie camp. Maybe somebody was like, I'm a Hillary supporter, but you know what? I don't like what she did here, and Bernie has the answer. And then once people convert to Bernie supporters, the fear in the Democratic Party is that it's very hard to get them to vote back. People are worried about that with this election. Are Bernie voters and supporters going to now come back to Biden? And so I could see where it might affect that. But Trump supporters, I feel like you didn't need to talk bad about Hillary to get people to vote for Trump. They were already going to do that.
Yeah. Interesting. We shall see. Speaking of Russia, is Russia banning Bitcoin?
So this video...
In today's show, breaking news. Russia proposes a law that criminalizes buying Bitcoin with cash. Offenders face 7 years in jail. You heard me correct. Russian lawmakers have proposed new laws that seek to ban the use of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in the country. Local media reported. This lawyer, here's what he had to share regarding this. People who currently own cryptocurrencies will be forced to get rid of them before the law comes into force or risk going underground. Goals that will be achieved this way are the direct opposite of what's being declared. In general, the idea of dropping a crypto iron curtain, in my opinion, does not contribute to the development of businesses or Russia's interaction with the world economy on a digital level. We'll be dissecting this story and how it will impact the Bitcoin and crypto markets in today's show. Also,
So this video and this story I'm seeing all over the internet among people who trade Bitcoin. But there's not, maybe this just happened, but that was the story that he's reading is from Bitcoin.com. I don't read that publication, so I don't know how legit it is. But I'm seeing this story all over the internet. But again, I try to find videos on YouTube because it's more interesting to share a video. There's no major videos on this. There's 20-minute videos of people who are all crypto pushers that are going into it. But I haven't seen it on the news yet, like a more legitimized news source. But I did find an article on Forbes 2 or 3 months ago talking about this potentially happening, that Russia is threatening to have some kind of response and penalty for people that are trading Bitcoin in Russia. So there's the seed of that on Forbes.
Was it saying that you couldn't buy Bitcoin, or saying you couldn't buy Bitcoin with cash?
I think I read and skimmed through most of the article on the Bitcoin.com site, and they were saying bank accounts that are trading. You know when you go on Coinbase and you link your account up and you send cash from your bank account to buy Bitcoin?
Okay. They
were not going to allow that. They were going to penalize you, I think, $7,000 or throw you in jail for some amount of time.
Wow.
Again, this is kind of like the beginning of a story. I don't know that we know enough about it. Hopefully this gets covered by more news agencies if it's actually a legitimate concern. But, here in America, we've had that fear. I mean, do you remember you didn't buy Bitcoin 2 or 3 years ago, but there was a period where the Fed or the IRS was saying, like, we want to audit all of these people that have transferred money from Coinbase and these other cryptocurrency accounts. We want to audit all the bank accounts. So Wells Fargo, if you've seen anyone that's moved money over to these accounts, we want to know how much, and we want to start auditing people, because it's kind of like the use tax. Everyone's buying stuff online, and they're getting it shipped to their house, but they're not paying sales tax when the company doesn't take it themselves.
Yeah.
So it's now your responsibility to pay the taxes on the goods that you're buying. Well, Bitcoin's the same way. Like, the IRS has said that this is not a like-kind trade. You're not taking land and then taking the earnings and buying more land, and you can do whatever that rollover is.
1031.
1031, where you don't have to pay capital gains tax on it. They are saying when you buy a commodity like gold and then you sell it and you buy another stock, it's not a like-kind trade. And so the IRS is saying you owe taxes every time you make a profit on Bitcoin.
Sure.
And we are now going to come after you. And that is going to happen eventually. I just think Bitcoin might be not at that stage yet. I mean, we just started having states requiring that you pay taxes on hard goods bought online. You would have thought that would have happened 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So eventually this will happen with Bitcoin, and it's been talked about here in the United States. But I just, the narrative that we've heard so long is that this event with coronavirus could be the tipping point where many countries start to go to a cryptocurrency-based dollar. And if Bitcoin is already positioned as the favorite, then that is an enemy to many other currencies around the world. And so I don't know what will play out with this, but kind of an interesting news story that's happened this weekend.
Yeah, interesting. Logan says, Lee, Alaska is the first state to completely reopen. We expect you to come up for traveling shortly. Let me know when you have your plane tickets.
I would love to go to Alaska.
You just mentioned Alaska the other day, that like maybe we should go with Alaya to Alaska. I was against it because I don't want to go on some crazy long road trip thing. I want to go to one location where we can get a lot of shots done. So let me know, Logan, if there's like a place like that somewhere in Alaska. I don't want to have to drive hours for each shot.
It'd be the worst thing ever to have to drive through the most beautiful countryside in America.
Dude, we were just in Alaska. Like, I don't need to drive up there anymore.
There's a lot we didn't get to see. We didn't go to Homer.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
We didn't go to the Kenai River.
If there's a national park somewhere that has, like, how many shots do you think we need in one location? Like 7 or 8?
Depends what we're doing. If it's just Alaska, then yeah, maybe 7 or 10. If Alaska's a part of something else, maybe it's 5. I just hate going somewhere and getting 2 shots.
I know, that's
in
such
Alaska.
a waste.
It seems like a waste.
And that's my fear with Alaska. But yeah, maybe I could come back up there.
I was wondering, we were watching Crazy Rich Asians. Is that the name of the movie?
Mhm.
I've seen that movie like 2 or 3 times now. I really like it. It's so well done.
Yeah, that was good.
And they get in that crazy plane. Do you know what this seat is? It's like your seat turns into a bed. Is that like the highest level of first class? If you were going to fly from New York to Singapore.
I think there's levels. I mean, I've only ever done business class before, but then I think there's first class, and then there's levels of first class now where you can have, I mean, the highest level of first class now is you literally get your own little room.
That's what this was like.
Okay.
And you have like access to a shower maybe.
Yeah.
And you could shut the curtains and like sleep. Anyway, we're just watching that, and I was thinking, so many economies, or so many companies are getting hurt right now because there's, especially the airlines. And I was just thinking, like, is there a way to charter a plane somewhere that would be like a private flight, because people aren't flying right now, and you could fly with 5 people in your own plane, and how much would that cost? I'm not the type of person that buys these first class seats. When I see a flight that's $5,000 or $20,000 to go somewhere, I'm like, who in their right mind would spend that kind of money just to live luxuriously while you fly across the ocean? Like, I will sit in a cramped little seat and sleep with my neck cranked. If I could save $5,000 or $20,000, I will live like a king when I get to the location.
Yeah.
But if there was a way to get on one of those little planes, like a little plane, and make my way to Alaska somehow, or make my way to Yosemite Park, and those airlines are struggling, and maybe like you could do that flight for $2,000 a person.
What are these little planes you're speaking of? Like
I don't
private
know.
jets?
Yeah, like a private jet. How much? Do you think they're struggling so much, or will they just sit grounded?
Yeah.
And they're like, we're not flying that.
Oh, dude, the cost that it cost, the cost that it costs to fuel and maintain those things is insane. It's
Well,
insane.
why am I hearing that the big jets have to fly? They're saying like they can't sit places too long.
Well,
is every jet like that? It's like a jet ski. You can't just let a jet ski sit out of water for 2 years because it will like do crazy stuff.
kind of what I'm doing with my jet ski currently. But I think why they're saying they can't just ground all their airplanes with big flights is because they have legs that they have to continue running. If you stop the flight from Puerto Rico to Atlanta, then that plane that would normally go from Atlanta to New York isn't going to be there anymore, you know? So it's like they have to continue doing some of the legs.
But that's why I would have thought that you could find good deals, because there was, what's the website that people use where a private jet will get stuck somewhere, but it has to go pick up somebody else somewhere else. And so it's like, well, it needs to be back in San Francisco. And if you happen to be in LA or Phoenix, somewhere, you could jump on that flight.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Like, I don't know.
I was just thinking maybe that's something to look into, where if we're all scared or we're worried about flying. I was thinking about it with Mike Kelly. We were talking about last night, if Mike came here, would we want him to quarantine, or would we just be like, oh, if we're going to get it, we're going to get it. But Mike's the type of guy that will spend a ridiculous amount of money because he wants the experience of a new plane, like a 777G model. I don't know what they have, but he would be like, man, I haven't been on that one. I haven't sat on the right side of the plane yet. I want that experience. So I was like, well, if Mike just had a private jet fly him, maybe he'd be down for that, and maybe he could be in a cabin with a lot less people than the big 777s. I just don't know if that's like cheaper than ever, or if it's
I
more
think you
expensive
should
than
call
ever.
Mike and tell him that you only feel safe if he flies private all the way from LA to Puerto Rico. It'll be like $100,000 flight. Brian says, science always wins. What was it? Stupidity loses every time. Yeah, I mean, in theory that would be nice, but sadly there's more dumb people out there.
Is science winning the global warming argument, or is stupidity winning that argument?
I don't know.
I always feel like the world will, if global warming's happening at the rate that they say it is, I feel like we are selfish enough where we will burn this planet into the ground before everyone will give up all of our comforts.
Yeah, that's true.
And in that case, I don't know that science is going to win. I think stupidity might win.
Maybe, but you know, I'm sure there are things that we could do where governments could ban oil or something, and it would be detrimental to the economy for a long time, but maybe you could create other forms of energy that would be better. Let's see. Here's an interesting clip about COVID surcharges.
This is a regular surgical mask, which we're going to use.
But in the time of COVID, there are no regular business hours. This Toronto salon is preparing to reopen with a new business plan.
We're not making any money off this.
Extended hours, limitations on the number of customers allowed, improved sanitization methods, and a barrage of personal protective equipment. And it comes with a price tag, a $3 surcharge.
We came up with the number because it pays for the basic cost of what we're going to use.
Some businesses are tacking on a COVID surcharge as they navigate through the pandemic. COVID has hit retailers hard. New data this week from Statistics Canada shows about 40% of retailers closed their doors in March, but not all customers are willing to pay a little bit extra.
Why, in the time where their own clients are facing financial uncertainty, would they put an additional charge on to pay for their business costs?
Cassandra Brown says she was going to be charged an additional $10 for her appointment. Says her Calgary dentist shoulders the cost of PPE. Consumer experts say surcharges may push customers away.
If they do seek charges, it should be made known to the public so we can at least have a choice whether to deal with that company or not.
So,
isn't this like the tariff thing? It's like, don't all costs just get passed on to the customer? The business.
Eventually, they certainly would, you know. But again, it just kind of feels like the cost of things going up, and this is where you know, there's that debate between inflation or deflation, and if things like this happen, can inflation, is this a piece of the inflation puzzle? Things just have to get more expensive because it's literally costing more to do it. You got to get the masks and stuff. But then, because
the service,
people aren't willing to pay, I mean, that was kind of ridiculous. $10 more, that's too much, but whatever.
For a medical service. It wasn't like
yeah.
going to Costco. It was like going to see a dentist.
Yeah, going to see the dentist. But because fewer people are coming to the dentist, now you have to have an even larger surcharge just to keep the lights on and keep everyone employed or whatever. And if you don't, then you have to start laying some hygienists off.
Yeah.
And it's just this never-ending cycle.
Well, I was thinking, would the cost of the goods go down to try to appease and appeal to more people? Would you say, like, we're going to do extra services, or our costs, we're going to have to charge less because nobody's coming in? There's a balancing act there, too.
Yeah. I mean, but, you know, when the average dentist in America has $500,000 in debt, it's easier said than done to just like.
Well, dentistry is tricky because the insurance companies kind of dictate what you can charge your customers. It's very rare that dentists can just say, we only accept cash, take it or leave it, because people can't afford to do that, you know. So if you have to have a big major surgery, you're going to have insurance that will cover some of it. Like, and there's just all these inner politics on what you can charge for your service. But take other products, for example, like oil changes or something. People might start saying, like, we're not making enough money. Maybe if we lower the cost of an oil change and I will take less for my time to do the oil change itself, maybe we'll then have more people come in and want oil changes because it's not as expensive as it used to be. Maybe Comcast says, we're scared we're going to be, I mean, I can't imagine Comcast is going to be in a bad situation. Everyone's working from home. Everyone needs internet. I think internet prices are going to go up because they know people need them and they got them by the marked balls. But it could go down, you know, if people started canceling all their like subscription services, like Adobe. People are like, I don't have time to do photography casually anymore. I'm going to cancel my Adobe subscription. Maybe Adobe's going to be like, I mean, we've seen that with Peloton. I know it's a marketing ploy too, but you may say, we were charging $50 or $30 a month. We're going to charge $25. I mean, gyms. I was reading an article today that was saying gyms are going to have, that's going to be the one industry that's going to have the hardest time reopening. Reopening a gym is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So what could they do? Maybe gym fees are going to go down because they're just hoping it'll get to a point where you're like, maybe I can't use the gym, but at $10 a month, I'm willing to like lose that even if I can't use it.
Yeah.
Some of these gyms, I mean, I was a member of a gym that was like $70 a month.
Sure.
Something like that. It was a nice gym, but if I had to pay $70 and couldn't go in, I'd be cutting that right away. But what do they have to lose if they charge $50?
They're just setting a standard that's going to be very difficult to raise again. If somebody's accustomed to paying $50 and they go, okay, guys, like, virus is gone now, we're going to put it back to $70, people are going to go, screw you, we're not paying that anymore.
But if it's that versus everyone cancels and we can't have enough money to run the lights
yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Marcus Brown says, if you want to come to a state and get plenty of lessons done in a short amount of time, Washington State is where you need to come. We have it all.
That was one of my ideas. I said, let's fly into LA and get a rental car and drive the 101 and we'll hit up all the amazing stuff on the coast. And I don't remember the reason you guys didn't want to drive.
I just don't want this to be some big thing. I just want to go to a place.
That doesn't seem like a big thing. We've done that trip before.
Yeah, and it was a pretty big thing.
Didn't feel like it. You slept half the time on the phone
I know,
in the back.
because it was a big
You
thing.
missed like all the beautiful scenery.
I did not. I saw plenty of it. Let's see. Here's an interesting video. I think I start every clip with, here's an interesting video. You can tell I'm great for television. I don't remember who made this.
Dr.
This
J.
is
Alexander
Vox, New York Times, but it basically just kind of shows what we learned from the Spanish flu, the 1918 flu.
Lara of the University of Michigan Center for History of Medicine was part of a team of researchers that asked a key question about the 1918 flu pandemic. Did implementing non-pharmaceutical interventions like social distancing, school closures, bans on public gatherings prove effective in saving lives while developing a vaccine?
We studied 43 American cities. They were the largest American cities at the time. And what we found is, based on our historical data and the statistical analysis, is that cities that implemented these NPI, these non-pharmaceutical interventions, early in a layered fashion, so that's what you're talking about, layering multiple interventions, and in a sustained manner, so kept them on for longer, those cities fared better.
Statewide closure orders, mandatory mask ordinances, and other forms of mitigation were widespread. Cities like San Francisco even imposed fines on individuals failing to wear a mask in public, though one of the main differences between 1918 and 2020.
Isn't it crazy to see this? I know I talked to you about this a few weeks ago, that I saw some images from 1918, and I just always thought 1918 was like horse and buggy and like people shooting the buffalo and like...
It's like Westworld.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then seeing this, I'm like, oh wow, it's so similar to what's going on today. I mean, you see all these people just going about their lives with the masks on. It's very similar.
Is the importance of the service industry for the modern economy.
Economic life was a lot different then. Today, the ways in which the disease is spread, those are going to impact and have impacted the service sector jobs more than anything. We have, this is an economy that is built on the service sector. So I think we're in for a much greater and more severe economic impact today than we were in 1918.
The fall of 1918 was the deadliest period in the pandemic in the U.S., right as soldiers were returning home and supporting the war effort was at an all-time high.
The historical context here is daily life was heavily impacted by the war effort. And so the average Joe in the fall of 1918 was very much preoccupied with things like the Liberty Loan drives. So the idea was to get as many subscriptions. Each city had a quota of money they needed to raise.
Philadelphia's decision not to cancel its Liberty Loan parade in late September resulted in 1,000 deaths in the span of 10 days. Other cities like Denver lifted restrictions that November on Armistice Day to celebrate the end of the war, only to experience a deadlier spike.
So basically...
Is it always St. Louis versus Philadelphia? They always look at those two cities and like how they did the parade and what happened. Philadelphia didn't fare well because they had the parade open to everybody.
But yeah, I mean, basically they're saying here that opening too soon or not wearing the masks and stuff did cause direct deaths back then that we can still track to this day, which is pretty interesting. So, that kind of, when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, ooh, maybe we are opening a little too early. Maybe we don't need to be going to the beach. Got to mark those balls.
I mean, I just feel like we're in a good situation because I don't feel like opening up that much in Puerto Rico. Like, we're not in a very densely populated area.
Yeah.
And we can kind of sit back and see what happens,
Yeah.
Like,
but it never got that bad in Puerto Rico anyway.
Like, the key to all of this is the testing.
Yeah.
And we just don't know, like, if we've had the worst testing, then we don't know how bad it is at all. Maybe so many
Well,
cruise
we can
ships
look at
and
the
stuff
death
were coming
numbers.
here.
I think we have less than 150 deaths in 3 or 4 months. I mean, that's pretty low. I think Puerto Rico has a very old population.
Yeah.
I would imagine
We're a
the
very
flu,
social community.
Yeah.
Everyone hugs and does the kisses and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
exactly. So I would have expected it to be a lot worse than it was, but...
Touche Films has a link from F-Stoppers where you can get 3 months of free Adobe. That should have been like a sponsored post. Get a good readout,
Yeah, Adobe needs to sponsor these coronavirus videos.
My Adobe hack, and I don't know that it's going to work forever. It's been working so far, is just put $500 or $1,000 in Adobe stock, and you will have free software for the rest of your life. Like, Adobe is one of these companies, like I sold Adobe back when I sold half my positions because I had made so much money with Adobe.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to take some of the winnings off the table, But I didn't buy back in. And Adobe, like other tech stocks, have just kept going up. And I've just always looked at my gains with Adobe, and I'm like, man, I know F-Stoppers pays for our Adobe subscription, but I'm like, I would be making...
I don't know if you know this, but F-Stoppers is us.
Oh.
It's coming out of our bank account.
Really? Yeah. Okay, well, just cut this part of it. Okay. If you just own Adobe stock, I mean, at some point it'll crash a little. It'll correct. I don't know if it's going to crash. I think they have a monopoly at this point. But I don't know. You can easily make your $9 a month.
Is anyone paying $9 a month, or is everybody paying $79 a month?
$79 a month?
I think that's what we're paying. We're paying that times 3 or 4.
I thought it was...
I think we pay like $250 a month.
Really?
For Adobe, yeah.
I mean, I know we do because we have so many accounts and we have...
3 or 4.
3 or 4 accounts and we want all the suites and stuff. But if you just want Lightroom or Lightroom and Photoshop, isn't that like $9 a month?
I don't know, maybe.
9 or maybe it's 19. Maybe it's only for a few months and then you get stuck. But I just always felt like Photoshop was like $120 a year.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I just assume people need a few more applications. Really, all we need is Photoshop, Lightroom,
and Premiere.
Premiere. And sometimes I go into Audition, but I guess we needed Audition for our Tiger King video. But
We needed it.
Other than that, we don't even know how to use the other Adobe programs.
Touche says he's paying $29.99. Somebody else right below him says $9.99, $9.99. Everyone's paying like $10, but I don't know. I've just always said if you're the smart investor, just buy Adobe stock and it will pay for the subscription service.
Well, it's easy to say in hindsight, but in the moment of this pandemic, like you said, photographers who were doing it as a hobby, which I would imagine is the vast majority, they might say, you know what, I'm not going to spend the 20 bucks a month for the next year. I'm just going to chill while I save some more money. Dan G asks, where's the best place to order custom-built PC? To order a custom-built PC? PCPartPicker.com is the greatest website imaginable. It will help you build a computer from scratch, or it has a bunch of pre-built machines that you can start from and then switch out parts and stuff. It's amazing. And then it has links, affiliate links to all of the cheapest parts that you've picked out for your machine. So sometimes when you've picked out the machine, you might find that a website like Amazon or B&H, maybe the majority of the parts are cheapest from them, but maybe Newegg has one or two that's a few bucks cheaper, but it might overall just be easier for you to buy everything from a B&H or everything from an Amazon, but you can see the price differences on that website, which is super cool.
Adobe is up 1.69% since their high before the crash. So they are at an all-time high right now.
Unbelievable.
For 1 year, they're up 38%. I bought Adobe. I can't remember if I bought it right before. I bought it like right before they did their subscription change.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
And so if you had owned it for 5 years, 387%. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. I don't see how anyone's going to overtake them. You know, there's applications. We use software all the time. Like, I use many pieces of software now. But there's lots of, you know, Luminar and stuff that's cheaper.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like they're taking the business away from Adobe. It's people like me that are just using more pieces of software now.
Yeah, but you have to look also at what the average person needs in photo editing software. And I'd say for the average person, they probably don't need Adobe Premiere. They could probably get away with, I don't know, iMovie's probably still horrible, but maybe what's the one on Apple? iMovie's the one on Apple. That one's pretty good. The one on Windows, what's that called?
Movie Maker or something?
Yeah, I think that one's always horrible.
But what about raw editing software? Is there a way that Apple used to have a suite?
But I think a program like Luminar would be the best for someone like my mom. She's got a DSLR. She wants to do minimal editing. She wants to just be able to ship individual pictures out, but like she doesn't understand how to categorize. Like, I hardly understand Lightroom catalog stuff. Every time I use Lightroom,
it's disconnecting and the images isn't found. You're having to relink
I open
everything.
a new catalog every time. Like, I don't know what's going on in Lightroom. I just want to see the files that I have in this one folder. So even though I have literally taken lessons on Lightroom, I probably still only understand like 5% of that software. I think that wraps up the show. Anything else you want to talk about, P. Hall?
Not really. This morning was our Sunday brunch date day.
I heard you put our family at risk again.
No.
You didn't go out and get food and bring it back to the house?
I drove out and a lady came to the side of my car and handed me...
Who was this lady?
She worked at the restaurant. Like, that's no more at risk than going to Walmart's riskier. No doubt it's riskier.
You shouldn't be doing that either.
I mean, how are you going to buy food? What are you saying? I don't eat?
That's what I'm saying.
I feel like it was
you
a low
order
risk.
rice from Amazon. When it comes here, you set it in the sun for 2 days, and you just eat rice.
Well, you could make the argument that the UPS guy is still handing me the box.
You shouldn't be doing that either.
Well, anyway, we went, and I think, did we have this rant last night or 2 nights ago? We call in the order. They say it'll be ready in 30 minutes. We leave 45 minutes later. We get there like an hour.
So you gave them an extra 30 minutes.
Yes.
So, I mean, I would have been bummed out because I would think the food's going to be cold now.
Yeah, I was worried about that. I didn't order eggs. I was like, I'm gonna cook the eggs when we get back because I don't want cold eggs.
Smart.
And so, it was all this fancy apple pie, French toast, crazy cool stuff. It's good. It's a good restaurant here. And so we get there and we park there, and they're supposed to come to the door. It's like a sign. You can't go to their door. They walk up to you. It's almost like Sonic's.
Is there a line of cars?
No, there's like 4 or 5 cars pulled in there. It's right next to a sushi place too, and so like the whole parking lot had 4 or 5 people. So I'm thinking, oh, this won't take long. I hope my food's not cold.
Yeah.
Well, sat there for 20 minutes before they came up, so now it's an hour and 20 minutes in.
God.
And then by the time we get the food, which they did get right.
Hey.
Was there anything they met? I think they got it right. I still knock it off because I still knock
it
off
was still
points 'cause
wrong
it
if
it took that long, but
Yeah.
everything was right, So then we drive back, and by the time we were done eating, from when we called in the order, from when we got home and ate, and keep in mind, it's like a 10-minute drive there, 10, 15-minute drive. So 30 minutes is driving, but 15 minutes was still their prep time, and the other 15, we were driving home. But it was 2 hours from calling it in to when we finished eating.
So stupid.
All for breakfast. I'm just like, this is ridiculous,
Why didn't you just eat in the car?
Because I wanted to make the eggs at home.
Because you were afraid the eggs would be cold.
I didn't order eggs. So.
All right. I think that wraps up the show. I swear, every night before we go on, I'm like, I don't really have that much to talk about. Let's just do a nice, quick 30-minute episode. Maybe we push it to 45, but no more than 45. And then here we go again, hour and 41 minutes. What are we doing with our lives?
Somebody thinks you called me P-hole, but it's P-hall, my last name.
No, it's P-hole.
P-hole.
On that on that note.
There's also a link to the after party if anyone's interested. Touche Films keeps...
I'm too tired again. I'm like done.
See you guys tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.